Our little neighbors would be in school whenever you guys were younger, and y'all would be like at the window back here watching out the back, waiting for them to get home so you could play, because their school was already done. And we would talk about it then, and I would say, see, if you guys were in school, you wouldn't even get to be home yet, so as far as that's concerned, the process every day, it can be a little challenging when the kids are smaller, because as I stated in the last segment that we did for you, I was just so worried that I would fail them somehow in their education and maybe not give you what you needed, or because I had never taught children before, like with you and the whole reading thing, we kind of had a little bit of a hard time getting going with the reading. It's not that he couldn't read, he just didn't want to, and you still don't like to read. And nothing wrong with that. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't read. I mean, think about yourself. Some of you probably love to read and you read a book every chance you get, but then there are some of you that would rather never have to pick up a book to read. It's just, it's a different interest or hobby. And so when he was small, he loved the math. You've always been good with math and the sciences, things that were practical and hands-on, but he hated to have to sit still and read. And
I still don't like to read Facebook statuses if they're more than 2 sentences.
I know, right? So, I mean, it's just that kind of stuff was a little challenging, because I thought, how can I get him interested in reading? How can I make this fun where he understands the importance of the reading?
And I think that brings up a good point too. If you're a parent and you're thinking about homeschooling, teachers Google stuff all the time. They're great things on Pinterest for teachers, and so just because you may not be a public school teacher, you can get great ideas on how to help your kids understand the same way a teacher in a public school would. And you also have to make sure that you're willing to invest the time, because it's not like you just sit them down in front of a textbook. Your kids aren't going to learn, because that's not what they do in public school anyway. So if you're thinking about it, you really have to make sure that this is something you want to do. And if you want your kids to have the same Christian education, then consider a private school or even maybe a co-op, but know that you're going to have to put a lot of effort into it to make it fun and to make them want to learn, especially since they're going to be home all day long.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because when you guys were little, we didn't have Pinterest or even Facebook. They had not come out with Twitter yet. And so, the research that I had to do to be able to help out, I got to tell you the truth, I depended on God. So when they were little, my prayer life went to the next level, because we would be sitting in the middle of a lesson and I would say, okay, Lord, please give me something creative right now to help them get this point. And he would, I depended on him a lot, but, And the thing is, not only is that a great point about searching through your Pinterest and Facebook and different aspects of social media as far as that's concerned, but if some of you are out there and you don't want the Christian aspect, we've chosen a curriculum that keeps God the center, keeps God in the center of the sciences and everything. The history part has brought in some Bible history as well. But if you're not a believer and you choose not to follow Jesus and you're thinking, but I don't want a Christian education, there are still a lot of great resources out there as far as mathematics and science is concerned, that you don't necessarily have to pull in the religious aspect, so to speak. And homeschooling is still going to be a great option for your family, even if you don't want to make that the center. For us, that is a very important part. And when we were studying science, I wanted my kids to learn this from a creationist aspect, because we absolutely believe in a divine creator. And so there are a lot of resources out there for you to check to see what curriculum is going to best fit with your family. And no matter what background you're from, I think that homeschooling is going to provide a great education. One of the things that I have loved the most about homeschooling is how close we all are. And, I have people all the time that'll make statements about how close the two of them are together. They are so close. And we have worked really hard from the day I had him. I can remember when I was pregnant with you. I was so worried that the two of you might not be close, or that you might get a little jealous because you were older and now there would be a new baby in the home. And of course, when she was real little, it worried me too, because I remember making a statement to my mom one night, but I always want her to be my favorite. I have so much fun with her. And I didn't know how I was going to feel having a second child. It's amazing how all that works, and we can do a cocoa and cookies on that in the future. But I was so worried that they wouldn't be close, and we have worked really hard to try to keep that relationship between them strong. And I believe you guys are probably closer than most brothers and sisters ever thought about being. Yeah. And a large part of that is because you're here all day together and you help each other, even with the schooling. And I think that we're close. Do you guys feel that way? Because I know a lot of times, like you guys talk to me, we stay up sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we talk about all kinds of issues. And I think that a lot of that is because we have had so much interaction together that it really has formed a relationship and a bond that sadly a lot of families never experience. And you know, I know that there are teenagers, because we work with teens, who don't feel comfortable talking to their parents about issues, who feel that they can't talk to parents about their issues. And I have to honestly say, this is the honest truth, we have not gone through that spurt of typical teenage rebellion where you guys just felt like you knew so much more than us and all that kind of stuff, like a lot of teenagers go through. And I contribute a lot of that to the relationship we've had through homeschooling. I mean, how do you guys feel about that side of it? The relationship side.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah, spending so much time together. Did you guys ever wish that y'all could get away from mommy though? I mean, like, be honest. Like, because y'all have had me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just about your whole life, were there times that you ever thought, man, I just like to get away from her for a little while? I mean, like, what about that side of homeschooling?
I mean, I think with everyone, sometimes you just, if you're around someone all day, every day, sometimes you do just need a break. Like, even though me and him are very close, sometimes I would just want to stay by myself for a week during the summer with my grandparents, just to get away from, like, people. Because when you're with someone all the time, the little things can start to get on your nerves. Like, it may not even be something major. It could be just like the way someone chews. And so I think everyone feels that to a point. Like, you see someone all day, every day. Sometimes you just want to get away a little bit, no matter who it is, husband, wife, brother, sister, mom, dad, whatever. When you guys think about y'all's relationship with me and your dad, of course dad hasn't had a big role in the education because he's out working all day, but when you guys think about y'all's relationship with us, or how our family interacts with each other versus some of your friends and things that they go through in their families, do you consider it a positive that you've been homeschooling? Or are you kind of appreciative of all that now that you're older, and you kind of look at where we are together as a family in that aspect of it? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, because most kids, when they're in public school, they have all those friends. So whenever they go through something hard, then they'll talk to their friends and ask for advice through them. And most of the time that advice is never good. Well, with us, we never really had friends that we saw every day, mainly just church or the neighbors and stuff like that. So we would always come to y'all, and you guys would always have the best answers for us because you knew what was the best. Yeah, you had more wisdom. Okay. So, out of all of your years of homeschooling, what have you enjoyed the most about? Or let's start with what you've hated the most. What did you just hate the most about home? Because you're a senior, this is your last year, so she can answer this as really she's almost completed the homeschooling process, and he's a sophomore, so he's almost completed. He's only got 2 years left. So having gone through all of these, because you've never gone to a school, we have always homeschooled from day one. So through all of the years of homeschooling, what did you hate the most, and then what have you loved the most?
I think maybe what I hated the most was sometimes if I couldn't get, like, something, if I couldn't understand, even though I knew you were my teacher, sometimes because you didn't have like a formal education in education, sometimes you were at your wit's end. Like, you were trying your hardest to get me to understand, but I couldn't understand. So then I would think, okay, well, is there something wrong with me? If I was in public school, could I actually understand this? But I mean, at the end of the day, I always ended up getting it. There was nothing really that I never grasped. But I think that would probably be my least favorite. My favorite would have to be, since I've started doing video classes and being in an actual school setting and being able to experience, even though you're not in the class with other people, but getting to experience almost their lives and their daily lives, and knowing that there are people who aren't getting the same things that you are. Because sometimes when you're a homeschooler, you can almost feel like, am I the only one that's not getting this? Is everyone else in public school getting this? But to know that there are other kids that really don't understand the same things you aren't understanding, I think that's probably been my favorite part of it.
Okay. And what about you? What have you hated the most, and what have you loved the most?
I don't think I've hated anything. I've always loved everything. I mean, maybe when I was younger, wanted to go to public school, but now, I guess the thing that I've loved the most is being able to stay home, sleep in and stuff like that. But I really haven't hated anything in particular.
Okay.
And I've also loved the fact that we have had such a Christian education, because even, like, that's not for everyone, but Christianity is such a huge part of my life, and every single day, my entire high school, I've always had a Bible class, and we always sing hymns and stuff like that. So probably the religious aspect has ultimately been my favorite part of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's probably kept you guys grounded and helped you not bow to peer pressure the same as what a lot of kids do, because you guys know, if you are a parent watching this, whether your kids are small or whether they're older now, you remember back to what it's like to be a teenager, and peer pressure on teenagers is just, it's unbelievable. And a lot of teens make some really, really bad choices with their life simply because they're trying to fit in. And one of the things that homeschooling does is help guard against that. And I know that some of you might already be thinking, but that's controlling your life. Let your kids make their own mistakes and own decisions. When they're old enough to do that as adults, absolutely. But as I've already stated, kids are not mature enough to be thinking those kind of processes when they're young. It's just, those are not the kind of things that we need to be throwing at our kids. I'm going to let my kids decide for themselves. I'm just going to let them experience life and make the hard decisions. Yes, when they're older, when they're fully mature and they're able. And then if you guys then start making bad decisions, you're going to be making them from a totally different place. You're going to be making them hopefully out of a more educated standpoint, versus you're just making a decision in the heat of the moment because you're pressured.
And that's also not fair to your kids if they're younger, or even, starting to become teenagers, because they'll look back and think, well, mom and dad knew this is what was going to happen. Why didn't they at least tell me? Just because you want your kids to make that decision, it's ultimately not fair to them when you have the wisdom that you could save them the heartache or the trouble or the pain.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a real good point. So in summary of all this has turned out to be so long that we're probably going to make this a two-parter as well, because I know it's hard for some of you to carve out 30 minutes of your time or so. So we'll make them in a little bit smaller videos to help you guys out with that as far as that's concerned. But to kind of summarize it all up as far as your whole homeschooling experience, are you glad now when you look back that you did it, and you think that it's something that if someone came to you as a parent and said, I've been thinking about homeschooling my kids and I wanted to talk to a homeschooler, do you think that's something that I should do? Like, how would you advise other parents who are thinking about this process for their own kids?
I would tell them to do it.
Okay.
As long as they prayed about it, because maybe God doesn't want that particular family to do homeschooling, even though it's good for us and good for a lot of other people. It may not be good for them.
Okay.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
I think that I would advise them too, as long as they're willing to put the effort into it, and even if you're not sure, maybe your kids have always been in public school, or you're not sure if this is going to be something that works out, it's not permanent. Like if you decide to homeschool, you can always put your kids into public school. So if you try it for a year and you just can't because of your own schedule with having to work or whatever, or it's really just not working out for you as your own family, it's okay. You can always put your kids back into public school. It's not a final decision. So if you try it for a semester or you try it for a year and it doesn't work out, you always have the option of putting them back into a private or public school.
And that would not indicate failure in any way.
Mm-mm.
Because there are homeschoolers that have tried it and it just doesn't work for them. It doesn't fit their family.
Yeah.
And so don't be worried about that. You know, like if you think, well, I've tried it and man, they make it sound so great and I can't do it and I'm going to send my kids back to school. I'm a failure as a mom. Please, I hope we're not conveying that in any way, because it's been great for us and great for our family, and I do highly encourage it, at least to give it a try. But please don't feel like a failure if it didn't work for you, because I understand that there are children who are born with different chemical imbalances that can make learning for them extremely challenging. You know, with things like ADHD and ADD disorders, and it can make for a challenging educational experience. And not every mom or dad, some of you that are dads that are thinking about this as well, not every parent is going to be qualified to handle that type of learning situation. Or some of the children who are born with special needs that might require people who are really, really educated with that type of challenge. So, you know, by all means, I hope that we're not conveying to you guys that you would be a failure as a mom if you don't do this and it's the only option, because that's certainly, I don't believe that. I've already told you guys in the other videos, homeschooling may not be for everybody. Absolutely not. But if you're leaning towards it already, we wanted to give you our perspective from parent and student, because so many of you asked and wanted to know about that process, that you can do it if you are already feeling like you want to take on that challenge. And that, yeah, it does require some preparation. There are days that you're going to feel frustrated. There are going to be days that you feel like, oh, this is going to be an eternity of having to prepare and study. But it really is only a fleeting moment. I mean, you're already, and I knew this probably would happen, but you're already about to graduate and head off to college. And it really feels like just yesterday we started all this, you know? And you won't be far behind her. And it goes so fast. It goes so fast. So if you've just started homeschooling and maybe you're in that moment of frustration, like, should I continue? You know, let me just encourage you, it doesn't last forever. And when they get older, you're going to probably wish it could last a little longer, you know, instead of having to say goodbye to those. Matter of fact, we've joked a couple times about, let's homeschool college. But there's no way that I would be prepared at all to be able to homeschool college, you know, not in their respective fields. But anyway, look at me like a blubbering baby over here. But it doesn't last forever. And it can create such a special bond between you and your children that will last a lifetime. And it's really worth the challenge. It's worth the effort. It's worth the investment to invest in your kids. And trust me, there were days that my kids wished they were in a public school setting. And there were days that they did feel abnormal. But now that they're older and they look back, they're absolutely glad that was a decision that we made for them. So take that for what it's worth. I want to thank y'all both so much for joining me on this Cocoa and Cookies and letting everybody hear your perspective on everything with the homeschooling. And if you guys have any more questions at all, please feel free to comment them below. We can always do another video to answer those if we didn't answer them already. I think we kind of pretty much covered most stuff, but there may be some stuff that we did leave out and help you out a little more with that. And we just want to wish you guys all the best. If you decide to embark on this journey, we're rooting for you. We're in your corner, and And at any point in the future, if you need some advice and need some help, please feel free to send me an email, and we will do what we can to help you out there. So thank you for joining Mommy. Thank you for joining Mommy. That comes with being a teacher, and they hate me talking in the third person. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me today. And we hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Cocoa and Cookies, and we will see you next week.